All right, welcome. It's good to see everybody. Obviously, it's an exciting day for us. It's also it's the first time that we have a chance to talk kind of about what's happened since the initial signing day of high school and junior college players in the early December period. It has been an exciting and intense process for us. We feel great about the young people that we've added to our football program here at the U of A. And there's a lot of people that I got to talk about because I think it's important we understand what this was over the last, 6 weeks or 8 weeks. We had 59 official visits in 25 days, okay, which is just an insane amount, right? That used to be what you would have in a calendar year for a single recruiting class. So really, really intense, really, really short windows. What we joked about as a staff is that like portal recruiting is like speed dating, but at the end of it, you're getting married. And then the next group comes in. They were all one-day visits. It was really, really exciting. I think, our staff did an incredible job, and I got to talk about some of them. Ben Thien is our chief of staff, who was involved in conversations with everybody from parents to agents to players to recruits to high school coaches. A ton of work done there, and all done at an extremely high level. Our recruiting team, Guys Crowley, Fletcher Kelly, Katie Joyner, and Kamali Iakina. The identification process of these people in the portal and how quickly those decisions had to be made was amazing and insane at the same time. When you think about our normal recruiting process for a high school player, you're thinking about 12, 18, 24 months. Well, this was sometimes 5 hours. And we are making a determination on whether or not to bring the young person on campus. Our compliance, Kristen Arquilla, I think Ben was on the phone with her at midnight last night, finalizing one of the letters of intent, or not the financial aid agreement for one of the recruits that we signed today. She was always available, always on it. She was outstanding. Our academics, right? Part of that, you bring in 59 players, they have to give the academic. Our CATS program is incredible, right? We have a team GPA over a 3.0 in the fall semester, which is something that absolutely has to be celebrated because that is very, very hard to do. And I'm so appreciative of the people over in CATS. And so Andy Salgado was the one that was giving all these presentations to these recruits, to their parents. And it didn't matter what day of the week because it was a 7-day-a-week process. It wasn't like we took a day off in the middle of it. And then our training staff and our, Paul Smith and Colin Carroll, our strength staff, both of them, every recruit, every family wants to know, how are you going to take care of our son or our brother or our grandson, and how are you going to develop him? And so there was an incredible amount of work for both of those groups in strength and in the training room. Tobrook Blaine with Beyond Football, I think that's one of the best things we do. We just had an incredible event with Lance Briggs and Paul Shields up there just talking about building your brand and life after football, and just Tobrook does an incredible job. And so for every one of these recruits, Tobrook made a presentation about how she was going to help them build a meaningful life beyond the football field. The Sands and Bear Down Kitchen crew, all right? Like Chef Danny and his crew, like y'all need to come have lunch with us sometime up there. Like the juice that these people bring to work every day, the positive energy, like what they mean to our team, the relationships they have with our players, and all the student athletes here at Arizona is incredibly special. And that's a lot of meals they had to prepare for all of us during these visits. Our creative team, Steve Gonzalez, Mackenzie Hamilton, Chris Hogan, and when you start seeing this stuff on social media, right, that's all these edits, the pictures that are taken, the videos that are produced, just an incredible amount of work from them, just a lot of fun. And then Lauren Vossler and Courtney Deflison with our onboarding team, that's also a logistical nightmare, right? Because you have a super tight window trying to get all these players here in time for the start of school, which was, I think, January 14th or 15th. A really tight window, and you have, Christmas break, and you're trying to accelerate this process for them. Where are they going to live? All these things. They got to get into school. They got to have all their academics situated. So they were incredible. And then also our athletic administration, Desiree Reed-Francois and her team, Tony Daniel, Rachel Blunt, and Bud Sasser, and they all had different roles to play in it. The really cool thing that I think everybody needs to know is that for almost every one of these athletes, Desiree made time for them. She came and met with them in our facility. And sometimes she'd address the group, and sometimes if she had, she's a busy person, and sometimes it was just she came to lunch and would sit with the families and have lunch with the families and get to know everybody. And so her effort was outstanding. And then I think our coaching staff did an incredible job because obviously, like I've said, 59 official visits in 25 days is like nothing any of us have ever experienced. And it was intense and it was exciting. And our coaches' wives were involved. And we're so grateful for them because they're part of this, right? They're part of the family vibe and how it feels around here. So them showing up to these official visits was so important. So we're excited. 33 mid-year enrollees, right, which is much different than we had a year ago because we missed the first portal based on when we were hired. And so now those players are here, and there's players that we've chosen to be here, and we can't wait to get going.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. We'll start with Justin.
So I think total you have 22 offensive and defensive linemen added for
Correct.
this recruiting cycle. How important is it to add the size and get better in the trenches?
Well, I think that, you know, you guys have heard me say it before, but I firmly believe that games are won up front, both sides of the ball. And I think that's a place that we had a lot of room to grow last year. And so that was something from the start as we spoke, you know, as a staff in here and putting all the pieces together, we knew we had to address that. Because it wasn't just about first line players, it was about creating an incredible amount of competition in that space so that that competition forces that to elevate. And so that's what we were focused on, you know, going into this thing. So 12 offensive linemen, 10 defensive linemen, and we're really excited about all those kids.
Mike, did Jenna think of that?
About a third of this recruiting class is from Texas. Clearly was a priority for you. Can you just talk about what, you know, it means to get more kids from that part of the country?
Well, I think it's a natural because we're going to be, you know, there's multiple teams in our conference that you know, play in Texas. So for us to be able to go into that state, obviously there's several coaching members on our staff that have deep ties to Texas, which is really, really important. There's also a lot of really good high school football players there. The state of Arizona is always going to be our priority in recruiting, absolutely number one, right? But we're going to have to fill out other pieces of that, and given the proximity of Texas and also the high level of high school football there, and then on top of that, how many games that we're going to be playing there, it makes it a super easy choice for us, and because of all those things.
Jason?
Just wondering if you could talk about your philosophy on JUCO recruiting and maybe how it's overlooked, but you guys landed multiple players from JUCOs this cycle.
Well, I think, you know, we are looking for people that we think best fit us. And that was one of the things that we talked about so much is we were looking for people that are tough, love football, and want to be here at the University of Arizona. And there are a handful of junior college players that fit that in the positions of need. And so we were measuring that against what was available in the portal, a high school player or a junior college player. And every program is going to be different that way. And every program has different needs. I think, you know, as we're looking across college football, I think it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like after this cycle, because when I'm anticipating people turning over 40 to 60% of their roster every year. And so where are you going to get those players? And knowing if you're recruiting from junior colleges that play at a high level, where you trust the coaching staff and you know those players have already had a good year, 2, 3 years of development, those are great places for us to recruit.
Hi, Brent. You have said in the past that you viewed this as a developmental program and you wanted to kind of build this thing the right way, but you also said, I think last time we talked to you, that you're recruiting for the 2025 season. Do you think those two things are in conflict with each other, or that they can kind of work in parallel tracks and that they sort of dovetail?
That's a good question. I think both things can be true. I think we can be developmental and also have to recruit for the immediate team. That was Coach Tomey's thing. He always said, you know, we are recruiting for this year's team, right? That was a huge thing for him. And as we put this roster together, and with such a big changeover, you know, in years past, you know, before the portal, you just depend on how many kids you graduated. So if you had a young team, you might sign 17 kids, 17 players, right? Now, if you're looking at 40, 50, 60 players, right, you're going to have to sign some players in that group that is developmental and then also ready to play, right? And you're hoping that the guys that are ready to play help push the younger guys and accelerates their development.
Obviously, you guys are talking about additions you made through the transfer portal and the recruiting class as well, but with this new staff coming in and how you guys were able to retain most of your roster, how important was it in terms of roster retention from the guys that enter the portal that came back?
I think that was awesome, and I think all the coaches did a great job, and I think that speaks to how special the University of Arizona is. I think it speaks to the relationships our coaching staff has with the players, and I think it's how the players feel about the city of Tucson and how the city of Tucson feels about our players. That's one of the most unique things about this place, is that you have a city that is so connected to the university that just happens to have a population of roughly 1 million people, right? Like most small town teams aren't necessarily like that, and I think that's one of the things that excited those players about staying here and continuing their journey at the U of A.
So you added a couple of quarterbacks too. What do you think about just that group and the guys that are playing behind Noah? And what do you think about Noah being able to mentor those guys?
Well, I think for starters, I'm really excited about Coach Daggy and what he's going to do with that position group. And Noah Fafita is everything that's right about college football. He's a good student. He's a great player. He's a great person. He's a great person out in the community. Like, you want to see something awesome? Like, watch our quarterback come coach next level football. Like, seriously, just watch him engage with fans. Watch him engage with little kids, 1-year-olds to 8th graders. He's high-fiving, hugging everybody, like cheering guys on. It's just awesome. He's got the biggest play sheet of any coach in flag football in the country, because Noah likes to win. But, I think the pieces that we added there are going to help us, right? There's a mix of young and experienced in the quarterback room, and I think that's good.
And just kind of going off that, Sawyer Anderson and just the background that he has with the crazy stats in Dallas, what stands out to you about a quarterback like him?
Well, it's fun because, have you met Sawyer yet? Okay, so he is a very young look. I mean, he looks like he's 15. And you're like, wow, this guy threw for 14,000 yards. You know what I mean? But he's just a baller. And the stuff he does, you see him throw on the move and escape and make plays with his feet, but also still be able to make every throw. And obviously the critical part of that was Coach Daggy's relationship with him when Coach Daggy was at Purdue, right? So he had history with Sawyer. Obviously, both being Texas quarterbacks, I think there's obviously a connection there. But we're excited about Sawyer, but we're excited about Braden. We're excited about all of them. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that position compete and develop and improve as we go.
When you look at this team compared to what you had a year ago, do you feel like this is more your team rather than one you inherited and had to make the most of, that you had more of a say in the guys you wanted here?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally, right? Especially when you're talking about, by the start of fall camp, we're going to bring in 53 new players, right? So, and we've already brought in 33. So when you combine like some of the stuff we did late in the portal last spring with what we brought in this kind of December, January, I think it definitely feels more that way.
Sort of a two-part question here. I know you like those. This has kind of been addressed already, but to what extent did last year's experiences in the Big 12 and especially the Territorial Cup, nudge you to look at the interior line play on both sides and realize that you needed to beef up in those areas?
I think when we looked at it, and we went back through the tape, and even on game day, I just felt like we were not quite as big as some of our guys were, but just like in terms of the depth and the consistency of it was just not as much. And I think that was something that we felt like we had to address. And like I said a couple minutes ago, I do believe games are won up front. Obviously, bringing Coach Salavea here was a big part of that, right? And his ability to develop players at a high level and recruit at a high level. And so as the best place to start, like everyone's always going to say quarterback, and there's some truth to that, but the best place to start is in the O&D line. Because if you can run the football and stop the run, you can be in every football game, right? And so, how do we give ourselves a chance to be more effective running the football? And we talked about that last year, and how do we give ourselves a chance to stop the run and be able to hold up in those situations? And some of the big bodies that we brought in, combined with their experience, because that was also a part of what we valued in the evaluation process was total snaps played, right? And so as we were looking at this player versus that player, well, this kid's played 1,000 snaps and this kid's played 100. Well, there's something about his experience that we put more value in as we were building it.
And Coach Salavea was the subject of my second question. He's only been here for a few weeks, but what impact has he had on your ability to recruit some linemen on both sides?
Well, I think it's going to be fun is because obviously a lot of you have some knowledge of who Joe Salovey is, but if he's in the building, you know he's in the building. You know what I mean? There's no like, where's Joe? No, he's here. I heard him. He brings incredible energy to the environment, and I think the players are excited to get to know him, and that process has obviously already started. And then you already see like lots of those connections, you know, bearing fruit on the recruiting trail or getting us into some conversations with players that are high level. So we're excited about it, and I think Joe is too.
Today, you guys were able to add Peter Laney to the recruiting class. Can you just go over his recruitment and how you guys were able to stay patient and eventually get him to Tucson?
Obviously, Peter's a young man that we have a lot of history with. It's cool because he also has history with Fafita and with that family from Southern California. And so I do think one of the reasons that we were able to put together a really strong recruiting class, whether that was what we signed in early December or what we added in the portal window, was because our players believe in what's happening here. Your players are your best recruiters, I promise you. And those guys were incredible helping us do that. And they were also super impactful with Peter Lange. And Peter Lange is, you know, because obviously he made the announcement in early December that he was going to Washington, and we were disappointed. But then we were kind of on to the next thing, you know. And then when it came back around, we were excited to get back involved.
A two-part question. Running backs, you guys added a lot of them. How do you feel about that room, and what do you think just about the mixture of the different size, speed, all that?
I love that part of it. I think Coach Carter did a great job. And what you said, the mixture, I think, is what is beneficial there. You don't want to have all big bodies. You don't want to have all small bodies. It's great when you can have mix and match, and you can create some matchup challenges. You can attack defenses with different style running backs or different like powerful runners or elusive runners, that kind of thing. You know, a lot of these guys are also great receivers out of the backfield. So I think, you know, we're always trying to elevate the competition in each room on our team, right? Just like in the running back room, in the quarterback room, in the receiver, it doesn't matter what position, we're trying to elevate that. Because when you elevate that and you create that really intense competition and pressure in practice, that's just going to elevate us for game day.
There's a contingent of fans that are like, yeah, well, let's see it translate to the field. But overall, though, how do you feel about where things are heading right now and what you guys have been able to do in the offseason?
Dude, I would tell those fans, I'm saying, yeah, let's see what happens on the field. Like, I feel the same way. I can't wait. I can't wait to get going with these guys. And I love the start we're off to with Coach Carroll and the strength staff. The energy, the intensity of our workouts so far have been fantastic. But like everybody else, yeah, I'm excited too, and so is his coaching staff. We feel great about the young people we've brought in here, and we're excited to get to work with them. We were, 7 weeks away from spring ball? And 6? All right, can't happen. Can't be here soon enough.
In the first National Signing Day press conference, you said that your two priorities were O-line and receivers, and we talked about the O-line. So what can you just make of, you know, guys like Luke and Trey you brought in and what they can bring?
Well, we obviously brought in a lot, and I think Coach Wade did a fantastic job, and also Caleb Moore, our GA there. But that was something that we felt like we had to identify going through the season. You know, obviously Chris Hunter made a really nice move at the end of the season. There's also some other candidates in that room that have done some good stuff. But again, how do we increase the competition there? How do we add more speed to that group? And if you look at all of those guys, they all can run. And for us, like sometimes that's helpful for us to have a verified track time so that we can say, hey, this is a real speed guy. You know what I mean? And so that was something that we felt like we didn't have quite enough of at that position a year ago. And that was something that Coach Wade and our staff aggressively attacked in this recruiting cycle.
You're like a mind reader. I was just going to ask you about adding to the team speed. I know that's something that you were kind of frustrated about at times last year. How do you feel you did, not only in the receiver room, but maybe at other positions in terms of increasing team speed?
I think that was, I think we'll see once we get out there, but already with the numbers that we're seeing from the catapults and how guys are moving, we're pretty excited about it. And, I heard a long time ago from a coach, like if you don't have speed, you're chasing it. And I don't want to be in a situation where we're chasing speed.
Any more questions for Coach?
You like that one, Michael? All right.
All right. I believe that's our time.
Bear down.